Broadcasting to you on WNN 1470 AM and TrentoVision.tv from the world's leading think tank laboratory, buried deep in an undisclosed building in hostile territory where evil and corruption is exposed. You're about to enter the Tom Trento Show.
All in mega battle station.
Tom Trento heads United West, a group that says it defends Western civilization against the onslaught of Islam.
And we also welcome everybody for a couple of days after Christmas. For all of you out there who celebrate Christmas, hello. Hope you had a wonderful time with your friends and family.
That's right.
For those of you who don't, that's okay too. We love you. But we're coming up against a brand new year, 2044 or something?
2045.
2045. It seems like it's something.
Yeah.
Good to be here on this 27th day of December,
right.
2013. I guess that means it's 2014 in just a couple of clicks.
That's right.
But we have a lot in store for you as we end what has been a simply amazing, amazing year. We have a special guest with us. We'll introduce him in a couple of minutes. And then we have another, and that's an in-studio guest.
Yeah, a live guest.
So
like
there's somebody brilliant enough, should I say that?
Yeah, we're brilliant enough.
Or, to actually come here into the bunker and physically put themselves behind this table with us. It takes a lot of guts to do that. But we have another guy that'll be Skyping in just a couple of minutes. Good friend of ours. I was getting ready today to leave and put on Fox. I go through several of the stations, MSNBC to laugh, Al Jazeera to laugh even more.
My favorite.
And then Abdullah, how are you? What do you do for Christmas?
What do I do? We curse the Christians. What else do you think we do? And if I were in Iraq, I would bomb churches like all the others. But here I'm not allowed to do.
Nothing new there. But on my 1 hour sleep, I'm fighting a little bit of a cold today.
Yeah, well, what's this Vicks Vapor Rub on the feet thing? That's just ridiculous.
I rubbed Vicks Vapor Rub on my feet and put on white socks.
You're insane, Trento. You're totally insane.
I feel wonderful. I don't care what Snoop says, unproven. I just proved it. Try it. But
now the rush on the store for Vicks Vapor Rub. Yeah, I see it coming down.
I got to stay awake for the show. But that's going to be easy with our guests. And we have, as I was saying, I put Fox News on very early this morning. And there, ladies and gentlemen, with his new gyrene, his new jarhead haircut, was our very dear friend, Ryan Mauro, the National Director of Clarion for the United States. Can we just go to him real fast to show his new haircut, then we'll come back to him? Is he on?
Who? Ryan?
I don't have him on yet.
Oh, you don't have him on?
No.
Okay, we'll get him
He's
in
a
a
busy guy, man.
He's a busy guy.
He doesn't have time to sit here and watch the whole show with us.
Ryan is...
Hey, Tom, did you forget to tell the people what day it is?
It's Thursday.
No.
Oh, my word. This cold got to me. It's Jumpin' Jumah Freaky Friday. The day where we reach out and touch our jihadi friends all over the globe. Welcome. Thank you for your cards and letters. Keep them coming.
Tom, I did not see you at mosque today.
No, we weren't there today. No, we had some other stuff to do.
They were asking for you.
I know. But what we're going to do on this Jumpin' Jumah Freaky Friday, we're going to take a particular look with our special guest in studio, my guest host, and our special guest Skyping in, two people that understand something about the Muslim Brotherhood, We're going to take a look at the Brotherhood, and they had a rough week last week, globally, particularly in Egypt, where they are from. So we're going to take a look at them, and then we will explore whether or not Western civilization is committing suicide, because our special in-studio guest, let's put him on screen. Give him a rousing round of applause for Ken Abramowitz. Hi. Howdy, Ken. How you doing? Oh, you touched me. You're getting sick.
Yeah, that's right.
That's okay.
Put some vapor rub on your feet.
Give me your foot. Let me put some vapor rub on your foot. It'll work. Ken is an interesting guy. We met him. Where did we meet you?
in Israel.
That's right.
That's right.
I know that. I was just checking to see if you remember where you
Yeah.
were.
We had a good time
We
together.
had a great time. We were on the Gaffney Trento tour.
Express, yeah.
Express. Damon, you weren't with us.
No, I wasn't.
We're going again.
Stop
in
it.
November.
You know how bad I wanted to go.
I know. We were there, and Ken was one of the participants in the tour, national security, and a look at the some of the religious components of Israel. And we met Ken and got to know Ken there, and then 2 or 3 times since then we've run into different places. And Ken has put together you got Ryan good. Ken has put together a fascinating analysis of Western civilization, a sort of a 3-pronged look into whether or not Western civilization will do what? Commit suicide? Is that what you say?
Well, we'll survive, thrive, or commit suicide. We have a few choices.
Survive, thrive, or commit suicide. We've heard it several times, and we wanted to have him share some of that with you guys today, particularly as we're concluding a very dynamic and dramatic year where the jihadi movement has run into some problems, but these are tough people who understand 1,400 years of adaptation to issues on the ground without adapting or modifying their ideology. And at the outset on this Jumpin' Jumah Freaky Friday, we got to make the point, and for the record, that our work, particularly on a day like this where we take a unique look at the Islamic world, our critique is of the ideology of Islam. There is no rule that says you have to respect every ideology that exists. And certainly it would be wrong-headed factually, intellectually, and culturally to do that. But as Christians and Jews, it is essential that we maintain a very high level of respect for individuals. And I make that distinction on this show in terms of my critique of Islam as an ideological system while maintaining deep amount of respect for individuals, in this case, Muslims. If you don't understand that, too bad. Then you don't understand, you don't want to understand. But it's a natural distinction. Now, could a Muslim lose the respect that myself and others have for them by moving to such an ideological position in Islam where they become a violent jihadi? Of course, that's why we're fighting in all these different theaters. Conversely, could a Christian or Jew do the same thing? Yes, but the move to a position where they ought not be respected by perverting, in the case of Judaism or Christianity, the ideology. But it's not a perversion, our thesis, of Islam when a jihadi lives out his kinetic or cultural mission. And that's our work on Jumpin' Jumah Freaky Friday. But we have an expert in to sort all of this out, and he's got a new haircut.
He's got a new haircut,
He's looking
yes.
more and more like a gyrene. Let's bring in and give a warm TrentoVision welcome to our very dear friend, Ryan. What is the tie?
What is
that all
tie?
about?
What? I told you I was going to be just as dressed up for your show as I was for Fox.
Oh, okay. But
Was everybody at Fox
I
on
still have my
vacation?
airbrush makeup on.
He's on the air here. We're going to switch that around.
We got our high-tech department.
Yeah,
here.
the high-tech department. We were doing some. Fox News.
That's not Fox News.
We were doing some prepping. We had to change batteries in one of the microphones. Ryan, how are you? You did a great job on Fox today.
Thanks. It was fun to know that you were watching. What are you doing up so early, my
Yeah, I
God?
know. I didn't sleep too well, but I did put Vicks Vapor Rub on my feet overnight. If you want to know that story,
I don't know what that
Don't-
is. and I
don't
think I
go
wanna
there,
know the
Ryan.
story
Ryan, don't
or
go
anything
there.
about it.
call me off the air, okay? Ryan, do you know Ken Abramowitz by any chance? Did you guys ever meet?
I did meet him once up in New York, very, very briefly.
Okay, good. Can you see us?
I can.
Okay, good. And we can see you. Now there, look into the camera, not into the, don't look at me. There you go. That's it.
We're going to train you how to be on Fox News.
The
so.
people want to see your, the people want to see your cute eyes. And what the heck did you do? You moved out of the cave that you used to live in, the Bat Cave, and now you're in like a regular room. What's the deal?
There are additional lights that are on. There are working light bulbs wherever possible.
Okay.
All right.
Well, you not only did you do a great job in summing up national security issues globally on Fox Today, but a couple of days ago you wrote this article in Front Page Magazine and did an analysis of the Brotherhood and this new development in Egypt where the Brotherhood is being declared a terrorist organization. Let's discuss that for a few minutes. Ken's involved with critiquing the Brotherhood, as we are. Get out your thesis, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. But, folks, at 11 minutes after 3 o'clock on the 27th Friday, Jumpin' Jumah Freaky Friday of December, we have two great guests, Ken Abramowitz in studio, and for a few minutes we got Ryan Mauro, who's the head of the U.S. operations for the Clarion project. Clarion, as everybody knows, or you should know, makes phenomenal documentaries. They made Obsession, Third Jihad, Uranium, and now you're on a couple of others. Before we forget, name the 2 or 3 other documentaries you guys are producing, and then how can people contact you? Then we'll go into your analysis of the Brotherhood's misfortunes.
Sure. The website is clarionproject.org. That's where we have our bi-weekly newsletter. The 3 videos that are currently out are Obsession, The Third Jihad, and Iranium. And then the next movie we have coming out in March is Honor Diaries, which is all about the catastrophe of women's rights in the Muslim world. And it's an issue that doesn't get much examination, and it's something that really needs to be pressed on. And it's something that can and will appeal to people outside of the right wing. And that's what we're seeing in the small audiences that we've screened it for.
Well, that's always been one of my big pet peeves on this whole thing, and I've always said, to win this whole ideology over, it has to be through you have to bring the Democrats on board and the women on board, and it's a travesty what's happening to the women in the Middle East, as far as this whole culture is concerned.
I've seen some of the released footage. It's going to be another amazing documentary, which will get the discussion rolling. Ken, in your work, have you gotten into the women's issue in Islam and how they're the misogynistic system of Islam? Have you dealt with any of that up to this point?
Well, it's a piece of
Oh, you got to put your mic on.
Yeah. Come on. Go ahead. But no, as far as the women's issue is concerned, it's completely a travesty. I mean, it's a misogynistic, patriarchal, patrilineal system that's just horrific on many levels. And
we got Ken back. You back?
We back. We got
Yes.
you back.
Okay, there you go.
Yes.
You were saying?
Well, there's many values that we have in Western civilization that have been created and believed in for 4,000 years. And Islam has many values that are incompatible with that. And we have to stay strong with our values and actually encourage the Muslims to adopt our modern values, even though they're older, they're 4,000 years, but we believe in our values and we shouldn't give them up.
Oh, good point. That's the cultural battle. Ryan, your article, what possessed you or motivated you to write about the Brotherhood's misfortunes, sarcastically said, and tell us your thesis and what's going on.
Sure. If you're referring to my latest article, it was basically an analysis of how Egypt has banned the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist group. They're not even going to be allowed to organize protests. They are goners. And the reason that the Egyptian government was able to do that, besides the fact that they have the power and the military on their side, is the fact that the Egyptian people that originally elected the Brotherhood to power have turned on them, where over half of Egyptians want to just completely ban the Brotherhood. Even more, about over 60%, closer to 70%, want to ban the Muslim Brotherhood as a political party but allow it to remain as a religious institution. So you have almost 3 in 4 Egyptians that say they want to either ban the Muslim Brotherhood completely or ban them as a political party, and so that's a tremendous ideological setback for them.
Yeah, but Ryan, a year and a half ago, a majority of the Egyptians voted them in.
Exactly.
Now, how do you make sense out of that?
Because to Muslim audiences, especially those that are illiterate and poor, Sharia law sounds wonderful until you live under it. So when the Muslim Brotherhood was running around and saying all the inequality and all the injustices and the corruption, that can be solved by religious-based rule, and how can you argue with the idea of governing in accordance with God's will, people voted for it. And now people are getting a taste of exactly what that means, what it's like to live under Sharia, and they don't like it.
All right, so legally, if I understand this correctly, the Muslim Brotherhood has been banned, a designated terrorist organization, just like every other country does. They designate organizations as terrorist organizations. And once they do that, a whole panoply of procedures and requirements and rules come into play as to how they are treated in society and globally. What are the ramifications of the Muslim Brotherhood being designated terrorist organization in Egypt to the Muslim Brotherhood operational folks that are advising President Obama in the White House? How does that work?
Well, it basically means that the Muslim Brotherhood is going to be in a mess in Egypt, but they're going to be in a stronger position in the United States. And that's because you have the Brotherhood lobby in the U.S. that is going to be making multiple arguments that, for example, the Muslim Brotherhood isn't a terrorist organization. The Arab press is already reporting that that U.S. officials are saying we're not even going to think about designating the Brotherhood as a terrorist group. And that's thanks to groups like the Islamic Society of North America, Council on American Islamic Relations, all these very influential Muslim American organizations that are actually Brotherhood affiliates. So politically, they're thriving in the United States. They're just not doing so under the name Muslim Brotherhood because they're not stupid. They're going to change their name. But whereas in Egypt, you have the Egyptian people absolutely detesting the Obama administration right now for their support of the Muslim Brotherhood.
All right. If that's the case, they're going to be changing their name. What do you advise as a national security analyst for the past 20 years? You're 20 years old, I think, and for the past 19 and a half years, you've been doing this stuff. Actually, Ryan started when he was about 12 years old and has risen to great heights in this work. What do you think the United States, those of us who are in the counter-jihad movement, what should we do at this moment? Is this a unique opportunity to force the debate on who the Brotherhood is in the U.S., or how do we handle this?
Well, there's a few different things. I think, first of all, always look at the organizations that are holding the rallies in support of the Muslim Brotherhood that are saying it's not a terrorist group and that we can work with them, and point out they are Muslim Brotherhood. Of course they're going to say that. That part's easy. But the reason this is a unique opportunity is because we can actually move beyond talking about hypothetical situations now. Before it was always you had one side saying, well, if the Muslim Brotherhood comes to power, they're going to act like terrorists, and the other side saying, well, if they come to power, they're going to act peacefully. We now know, because they came to power in Egypt, and the people that know them the best, the Egyptian people, threw them out, and are saying, no, you've got to ban them. We elected them, but now we understand you've got to ban them. And this is popularly supported. Right. One of the things that really frustrated me was when the American media was characterizing the Egyptian military's crackdown on the Brotherhood as just this massacre of modern-day Gandhis, Egyptians went onto YouTube and the social media, put together videotapes of their own, from their own media, showing the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood doing things like putting children in front of these rallies so that they'd get fired upon in order to create a massacre. And so we have to look at what the Egyptian social media outlets are doing and use that as ammunition. And that's what we're doing at ClarionProject.org.
Beautiful. And they learned that from the Hamas's operational procedures. Hey, Abdullah, Imam Abdullah, as everybody knows, at 20 minutes after 3 o'clock on the 27th of December, this beautiful Florida afternoon, 80 degrees here, maybe a little rain, which will be nice, cool things off. But on this beautiful Florida afternoon, as you're driving anywhere from Miami to Orlando, listening on WNN 1470, or if you're watching on TrentoVision.tv on the UnitedWest.org, we have Ken Abramowitz with us here, and Ken is going to pick up in a little bit and lay out three options Western civilization has. We had some breaking news over the past couple of days. Muslim Brotherhood being declared a terrorist organization in Egypt, which is going to force a interesting debate here. But we also have in studio our favorite Talibani Sunni Muslim Imam Abdullah Yuful. Imam Abdullah, what are your thoughts on the Brotherhood being declared terrorists?
This is unconscionable. Since 1928, the Muslim Brotherhood has been part and parcel of the fabric of Egyptian society. And if Sharia law is to ever become the rule of the land, re-establish the caliphate, that groups like the Muslim Brotherhood cannot be terrorists. In fact, even your administration at Pennsylvania Avenue, let the Brotherhood walk in and out and do what they want. It is time for the rest of the world to follow the Obama's lead.
Well, let me ask Schmucky. I mean, he made a different view. Schmucky Putzlik.
Yes.
What do you think of the Muslim Brotherhood being declared a terrorist organization?
I don't know nothing what goes on over there. As long as they're only killing each other, I don't care.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we understand that. It's good understanding. All right, Ryan, before we let you go, give us and our listeners and our viewers the State Department's tripartite test, the criterion for determining if an organization is indeed a terrorist organization, and whether or not the Brotherhood satisfies that criterion.
Right, this is how you win the argument over whether the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist group. Let's just use the State Department's own definition. They say there are 3 qualifications that a group must meet in order to be declared a foreign terrorist group. The first is that they must be foreign. That's easy enough. The Muslim Brotherhood is foreign. The second one is that they need to either engage in terrorist activity, which doesn't necessarily include suicide bombings. It can mean funding them or any other type of logistical support, or retain the capability and intent to carry out terrorism. So that's very key there. Even if you were to concede the argument that the Muslim Brotherhood is nonviolent for now, which they aren't, but if you were to concede that argument, they would still meet this qualification because they retain the intent and the capability to carry out terrorism in the future. And the third criteria is that they need to threaten American national security and American nationals, and that's very easy to prove because the Muslim Brotherhood is out there saying that American soldiers are legitimate targets, they attack our allies. So this is an easy argument to win when you break it down just by the State Department's own definition. They can't have any type of persuasive argument against it.
Mark, you got a thought?
Yeah, I got a question for you. When we were over in Israel, and Ken, you were in the room with us on this, is when we asked the question to the Knesset, should the Muslim Brotherhood be listed as a designated terrorist organization?
You asked that question.
Yeah, I asked, but it was asked to the Knesset, should...
Not to the Knesset. It was... We were in a meeting room.
Well, yes.
There was a Knesset member.
Yes.
It sounds like you're speaking to the
No,
Knesset.
no. Okay, no. Mark speaking to the Knesset, yeah, right.
Put a collar on that shirt.
Yeah, really. No, but we were inside the Knesset building, all right? And so we asked one of the members of the Knesset there, should it be listed as a designated terrorist organization? And to my surprise, they didn't just immediately dismiss it. They kind of looked at me with dumbfounded look, like, well, of course they are. We all know that. It says, well, can you officially list them as a designated terrorist organization? What are the chances of that actually happening here in America, as getting them listed as a designated terrorist organization?
Before you answer that, Ryan, the follow-up to your question you asked the Knesset member in that room, they said, look, it's very difficult. We may want to move in that direction, but we have to be careful because they may be back in power, and we may have to deal politically with an organization. If we declare them a terrorist organization, we can't deal with them. So we're kind of squeezed here. But go ahead, Ryan. What are the chances of anything happening here? I think you mentioned it, but mention it again.
Well, I always try to be as optimistic as possible, so I'm not going to say 0%. I'm going to say 1%. Under the current Obama administration, it's very unlikely that the Muslim Brotherhood is going to be declared a terrorist organization because they made it clear that they consider them to be the moderate force that needs to be empowered in the region. And to this day, the Obama administration stands by the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. But there's really three basic reasons I find why the Brotherhood hasn't been declared yet as a terrorist group in the U.S. And the first is, of course, the Brotherhood lobby that we discussed. The second is the ignorance that results from that lobby, sidelining folks like ourselves that are telling the truth. And then the third is fear. Because if you're a diplomat at the State Department and you're told, do you declare the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist group, then it becomes a giant mess. It becomes very hard for you to handle.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. And we just had the flyer that's going around the internet with the 6 Brotherhood members who are involved with the administration, foremost of which is...
And that's not just 6. I mean, there's a lot more.
Foremost
There
of
are
which...
plenty of us. We're everywhere.
Foremost of which on that flyer is Mohammed Majid, Imam Mohammed Majid of ISNA, a co-conspirator in the Holy Land Foundation trial, and Abedin, who may be reappearing if Hillary runs, isn't even on there. All right, Ryan, we're going to have to let you go. You have been phenomenal on our show many, many times. We appreciate your commitment and all that you have done and you continue to do for this country. Why don't you take 30 seconds and share your end of the year closing thoughts with our viewers and listeners?
Well, because I always try to end on as happy of a note as possible, I would just say there are positive trends happening with this backlash against the Muslim Brotherhood. Unfortunately, we're swimming against that positive tide, but that tide does exist. And so there's always reason for hope, and we're going to be tracking it at clarionproject.org.
Okay, excellent. Clarionproject.org, good friends of ours. Let's say goodbye to Ryan. Ryan, thank you very, very much.
Assalamu alaikum.
Good seeing you.
Happy New Year, Ryan.
And have a wonderful New Year and a white screen. It's snowing in New Jersey.
It's snowing. Yeah, it's snowing out. It's all white out.
So we can get that fixed.
I cannot wait, my friend. It is snow. I will sit. I'm going to Islamberg.
Ken, you are. That's
I
right.
am going to Islamberg.
We have
yes,
to.
New York.
I don't know if I'd announced that. It's better to say you've been there.
Oh no, I will be going.
Okay, good. You can go. Abdullah's going to be going up to upstate New York for the new year, and you're going to try to visit Islamberg.
Oh yes, I'll be visiting some very dear friends.
Muslims of America organization. We've had some friends try to get in there. It's been interesting. But Ryan is an amazing guy. He started national security work around 12 years old. Literally 12 years old. He started at 12 years old.
You did.
Then around 13 or 14, he started getting recognition for a website he put together, World Threats. And then 16, 17, 18, 9/11 hits. And he's up in the New York area. And as you can see, he's well informed and very effective communicator. And now he's running the Clarion Project's U.S. operations, and just phenomenal guy.
Well, I'm glad to see him back on Fox News again. They had him off there for a while.
Little hiatus. So, but we have no hiatus for Ken Abramowitz, who was here, folks, at 29 minutes after 3 in the afternoon on the 27th, Friday, Jumpin' Jumah Freaky Friday. We wish you a safe weekend. Please be careful. We'll get this out. No drinking, no driving, no texting, no driving. Don't even drive, okay? Get a driver, walk.
Ken will drive you. Ken will drive you.
Ken will drive you, right? Ken will drive you intellectually.
Take your
Because
camel.
you have one of your handouts, Ken. I want to get into your material now. Did you bring one of them?
Oh, I always have something.
He always has something.
What a coincidence. What are you interested in today?
But
No, the big 16-page,
Oh,
20-page.
the big
Oh, yeah.
giant
Yeah,
page
the
thing.
big mama,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
big
yeah.
one of
yeah,
those.
Here. Here,
The
oh,
big mother.
Oh,
There we go.
there we go. All right, here we go.
It says, Ken, the future of Western civilization, how to save Western civilization from itself. All right, take a moment, and you are not formally a national security expert. You came at this a different approach. This will be very motivating for folks out there who say, I do such and such, but I really got to get involved in saving Western civilization. I think you're a tremendous example, motivational example, how people can get involved and be very successful at it. Share your background a little bit and how this thing came to be. Then we'll get into the particulars.
I actually specialize in the healthcare industry for the past 35 years, and as an analyst. And I wrote 500 pages a year for 23 years.
500 pages?
Yes,
Phew.
a year for 23 years as an analyst for one of the brokerage firms on Wall Street. So now I'm an investor in the healthcare industry, but I still maintain my analytical skills. And as a private citizen looking at issues over the past 15 years, I've increasingly spent time on national security issues. I now devote 2 days a week, about a third of my time on national security. And so I take the same analytical skills that I use in healthcare. I now devote part-time for national security. And at the request of a professor earlier this year, I created this speech called How to Save Western Civilization from Itself. It was 15 years of thinking, 3 months of applying myself to it. And I'm very happy with the exercise. It's a huge amount of work to do as a volunteer, private citizen concerned about the country and the world, but I did it and I'm very proud about it.
All right, and as I mentioned earlier, at 32 minutes after 3 on a lovely Florida afternoon, we heard you deliver this presentation in Jerusalem, actually. And then we heard you deliver it in Palm Beach at David Horowitz's Restoration Weekend. And we don't have time to obviously go through the whole thing, but let's hit the highlights. I think in light of the 21st century global national security issues, going into the 14th year of the 21st century, coming out of Ryan's analysis, looking at the dynamics of the Brotherhood's problems in Syria, Egypt, Israel's unique situation. This analysis is extremely helpful, even to us that know this stuff, putting it into a context. And you don't just say, here's the mess. You provide ways in which we can thrive or survive. What's the thesis? What's your 25 words or less pitch? If somebody says, well, what is this all about? What's your pitch?
Well, first you need a diagnosis, then you need a therapy for the diagnosis. So in terms of diagnosis, there's 3 enemies of Western civilization that I identified in my thinking. And the 3 enemies of Western civilization, number one, are actually ourselves, so to speak, as we keep asking our government to do more and more things with money it doesn't have and therefore steals from our great-grandchildren that don't exist. Another enemy of Western civilization is the United Nations, which is basically worldwide leftists that are non-believers of our values. And then the third enemy of Western civilization is political Islam, of which there's 4 worldwide terror organizations that are determined to take over the world. The Muslim Brotherhood's one of them. Iran is actually the number 1 terror organization in the world today. Al-Qaeda number 2, Muslim Brotherhood number 3, and the Saudi Arabia Wahhabis would be number 4. And these terror organizations can be violent, particularly Iran and Al-Qaeda, and they can be intellectual or legal or pre-violent. That would be the Muslim Brotherhood and the Saudi Wahhabis.
I would like to say that Al-Qaeda could be considered the Muslim Brotherhood. It is child of Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, there's an interrelationship there with the Muslim Brotherhood being the intellectual father and the Al-Qaeda following out the logic of that intellectual philosophy. Now, these 3 enemies of Western civilization, I call them all possessing false narratives. And so we ourselves, usually through the Democratic Party, sometimes some Republicans.
For our audience, listeners and viewers, when you say we ourselves, further define what you're talking about. You, the 4 of us in here, or what?
Well, the Democratic Party, or liberalism, or leftists, or socialists, or communists, depending upon what word you want to use, is the enemy of Western civilization. But sometimes normal people, naive people, fall for the false ideology of the Democratic Party. because the Democratic Party words might sound nice, like I think everybody should have health insurance. I happen to actually think that. There's ways to do it, but there's ways
That's
not
your business,
to do it.
right?
Yeah, that's my business.
Is Obamacare the way?
Obamacare is such a big disaster, it may end up destroying the socialist, or I call it the Democratic Party, the Socialist Workers' Party. It may end up destroying it, just like the Muslim Brotherhood when they overreached in Egypt.
Or it might be the way to single-payer system.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That this is some type of layout to get the single payer system.
Sure. America's at the crossroads of being totally infected by the false narrative of the Democrats, or pulling itself together under the leadership of the Republicans. So we can go either way here. Just like, by the way, Egypt could have gone either way. Egypt could have stayed under the control of the Muslim Brotherhood and just killed 1 million people, but the people rose up and they flipped it to a normal country, and hopefully they stay normal. But we have the same dilemma. We could become a normal country again, or we could have the socialists infect us for another 8 years, and we'll cease to be a normal country. We'll be essentially like the dead European countries that are going through the process of self-induced suicide. But I'm still an optimist, so I think the people are
You
going
and
to
Ryan,
win.
all these optimists today.
Right. But the point I'm getting to is that all three are false narratives. The Democratic Party is a party of false narratives. The United Nations is worldwide false narrative. And political Islam is a false narrative. And the question is, how do we fight false narratives? The irony is normal people are the minority. You would normally think that normal people are the majority, and then there's 10% of the people that are a little strange. But we have a situation in the world today where the normal people might be 40% of the population, and we're surrounded by three false narratives. Wow. And the question is how to break those false narratives, because if we don't break them, they'll break us.
All right, well, let's see how astute our technicians are over there.
Here comes
37 minutes. I'm going to give you a second
comes
to get your
David.
thoughts together. We have Ken Abramowitz, who's a national security analyst, who has come out of the business community and then taken his skill set in the healthcare industry and applied that research to these national security issues. And we know a little bit about his background. He didn't just Google a couple of things. I mean, he's met with the top people in the world on these issues, and then compiled this presentation. And Mark and Damon, we're at a crossroads. Ken is arguing we can go either direction, and we got these three entities: the United Nations, the Democrat Socialist Leftist movement, and political Islam, Islamic Jihad, even more than Islamic Jihad, the whole political Islam component. I don't know. He wants to be an optimist. How do we get out of this?
I am very much an optimist. I do believe that that Islam will conquer Western values with the aid of the far left. You can see that we have the Green-Red Alliance as a strong like bull, and between both hating America also much, I do believe that yes, political Islam will be triumphant.
Okay, Mark.
Well, I'm looking at it in the way where it's actually going to have to burn before it gets better. It's almost like until you get the Obama healthcare actually seen. Actually, Pelosi was right. We have to pass it to see what's in it. And now that we know exactly what's in it, it's going to burn. It's actually going to burn the Democrat party off to the ground. I think now taking that to the macro and looking at it from global issues. Iran's going to get the bomb. That's inevitable. It looks like there's nobody stopping them. Once that comes into fruition, once they have it, they're going to use it. They're going to use it, or Israel is going to do something to stop them from using it. It's two paths on an ultimate destruction path. So it's going to have to burn before it gets better, and a lot of people are going to die. I mean, the 65 million people did not have to die before World War II, and that's what we're trying to prevent, is get the information out so they don't have to. But it really looks like it's on an inevitable path.
Okay, he's a happy warrior. You're a sad warrior. Real quickly.
I'd like to say I'm somewhat optimistic, like Ken is, because if you look at the rest of Western society, conservatism is starting to make a comeback with some of the other political parties. We're lagging, okay? You know, Obama has that love affair with the socialist left, only that was cool back in the 60s. He's living out his dream from the 80s, you know, when he was a kid, as socialist now. The rest of Western Europe already tried it and failed, and they're on their road to recovery. So that's where I think we might have a little bit of optimism going forward.
Okay.
Well, I
just
want to say something. I'm not pessimistic. I'm actually optimistic because I think once it does burn down, it's going to come back even stronger.
Well, yeah, but there's going to be a lot of bodies strewn about.
Well.
Ken, you just laid out for our listeners or viewers at 41 minutes after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Ken Abramowitz is with us from up north, down here visiting our studios live and in person right here. Laid out the fact that there's these three entities that are in conflict with our traditional understanding, the Judeo-Christian worldview, or traditional Western understanding of values, of morality, of logic. And those three entities are the United Nations, check, we know that one. The leftist Democrats, check, and political Islam, check. They're fighting against the Judeo-Christian worldview, the Weltanschauung of Western civilization. Ken, help us. How do we get out of this mess?
I'll answer in 30 seconds. One extra point to add to your point is that when I look in history, in terms of documents that are the underpinnings of our values, it would be the Bible, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution. Now, there's many wonderful writings in between the Bible, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights.
Like the Quran.
But to make it simple, those are the three that I value the most, and that's what we have to protect. And we need a political system that protects our Western values. So now to answer your question, it's incumbent upon the Republican Party to be much bolder in their response to these three false narratives. The Republicans try to be nice people, so to speak, but they're competing with people who aren't so nice. So I think the Republicans must toughen up their message. And in particular, in 30 seconds, I encourage Republicans to support legislation that grows our economy, protects our people physically, in other words, a strong military, and protects our people culturally, like we were just discussing, emphasizing the values of the Bible, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution. These are three very simple concepts. But most times when I listen to politicians, they emphasize one or the other, but they don't put it all together. So it's very common to hear a politician says, vote for me and I'm going to reduce unemployment. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to put a chicken in every pot that in the olden days. That's fine, but that's only one issue. Sometimes someone might speak and say, we need a strong military, and I don't like the cutbacks that the military is going through. We must be the dominant military power. That's fine too. And then sometimes a third type of person says, I believe in the Bible. Okay, and I believe in certain values, and they go through the different values. That's fine. I believe in minority rights. I believe in women's rights. I believe in children's rights. The right to disagree. That's why you mentioned that we respect Muslims. It's true, because we don't have to agree on everything. We have the right to agree to disagree. We go back to work. We go to a baseball game. Whatever we do, we don't have to have 100% of the people in the baseball park agree with us. Doesn't matter. We're watching a baseball game. So. But we respect minority rights. That's part of our tradition. But the point I'm getting to is very rarely do I hear a politician simply put the three pieces together. It's not that difficult. Romney couldn't do it. Ironically, he's certainly capable of doing, but he didn't. We need a candidate at the presidential level, senator
Reagan's
level.
three-legged stool.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not that complicated. Just someone has to.
Something that Tom talks about quite a bit is the three-legged stool, and that in order to have overall strength, that's what needed. A two-legged stool doesn't work.
And that's an excellent point, Ken. Because and here's the thing that really frustrates me with what you're saying. You always hear politicians or someone say, oh, you can't talk about national security because, it's not popular.
We all want national security. That's not political. Israel is not a political issue. Both parties like Israel.
But it frustrates
I
me.
just want both parties to like America.
Right?
That's a stretch.
But what I was getting
Not
at,
happening.
but what I was getting at was, if you have that message and you put that message out on a consistent daily basis, it's a winning message. Reagan proved it, and more recently, we just proved it here in Palm Beach County. With the largest vote swing in all the swing states. It's a winning message, and that drives me, bonkers.
Watch the 7
Ken,
words.
I want to pick up what Mark is saying. We're at the tail end of about a 3-month research project on figuring out what happened in Palm Beach County with the Romney campaign and the whole Republican campaign. And what we've discovered is there's an inherent failure in the infrastructure of the Republican Party, where analogously the Republican Party believes you can win campaigns with only an air campaign, no boots on the ground. The dominant amount of money, 95%, goes toward absurd and obscene negative television commercials. And the reason why this isn't going to change in the near future is because the media buyers and the consultants have been in the Beltway for 30 years, 40 years. The good old boy relations are there. And the big campaigns get locked into this system. And Obama is doing just the opposite. He doesn't neglect TV with the Democrats. They have a phenomenal community organizing ground game from the bottom up. How, if the solution to the problem you identified, the potential cultural side, suicide of a culture side, is its only hope is in the political system that it stands upon, our Republican system. How is that going to be a solution when internally the Republican Party is flawed and failed at this point?
It's a complicated issue. Your point's well taken. The Republicans do have to have a better ground game and even focus on the ground game. They've started doing that. It's still early, and I haven't analyzed it well enough to tell you whether it's effective or not, but they have outreach efforts on the ground 24/7 to not, as they say, we can't just have an election every 4 years. We have to really be talking to voters every day. And so even the Republican National Committee would agree with that. Now they just have to do a better job at it. That's half of the issue. The other half is you have to have the right message.
Right.
You can't just show up and say, oh, I really like blacks or women or Asians, whatever it is. And they say, oh, what's your message? Oh, I don't know. I'm just here to tell you how much I like you. I respect you. I want you to vote for my candidates. And you're hungry. I have a donut here. And isn't this great? So I'm trying.
100%
Okay,
right.
the
100%
woman,
right.
Lois Frankel, who won Congress, and what's that? Is that
22.
22 right here, okay? She aired a commercial to give you an idea of what, continue what you're saying about, I'll give you a donut. Her ad was, I'm on your side, always.
There's a real winning message.
Okay, I'm
She
on.
won.
Hey, and she wins with that. So basically, she just said, I lied to half of you.
She beat Adam Hasner in 2012. Yeah.
Right.
All right, so Ken, get us out of this mess because I want to spend the remaining moments once we solve this on. We can't let you go without taking a look at Obamacare. We've been beating the hell out of that. We got an expert in here on that. So how do we not commit culture side with the limitations of the Republican Party right now?
Well, I have an expression that Democrats scare people through lies, and Republicans have to scare people with the truth. So
Right.
Republicans should be the party of truth in those three spheres. How do you grow an economy truthfully? How do you protect the people physically? And what are the physical demands on us? Explain to people the threats that we face and why we have to finance the military. And number three, explain to people what our values are and why they're important. Values like compassion, freedom, liberty, land of opportunity, in God we trust. compassion. These are basic Judeo-Christian values, and we have to reiterate them every time. Just like if you have children, you don't just have a child and then go away for 18 years and say, "Oh, kid, let's talk about values." They're not going to have the same values because you didn't spend 18 years transferring your values to them. So the Republicans have to be much more aggressive, much more offensive, not offensive, offensive in terms of taking the initiative on those three issues, because the Democrats fail on each of those issues. The Democrats refuse to enact policies that grow the economy because they just want to steal money from the rich and redistribute it, which actually makes everybody poor. They refuse to devote the resources to protect us militarily, and they refuse to protect our cultural values. And so the Democrats are sitting ducks for a highly charged, offensive, truthful campaign by Republican candidates. And when I meet Republicans, I see a senator congressman every week, one or two or three, and I say I pay for the pleasure, by the way. And I go to breakfast, lunches, and dinners in a group fashion, but I get my 2 minutes. And I say, "Tell me 3 reasons why someone should vote for you in 30 seconds." They go, 3 minutes later, they answer me. I say, "Look, I'm going to make it simple for you. I'm going to pretend that I'm you. Vote for me because I'm going to support legislation that grows the economy, protects the people physically, protects the people culturally." And I finished in 15 seconds, and I'm not even running. Why can't you do that?
Can't you do that?
Because they're trying to figure out who not to offend with their answer.
That's right.
Right.
And when you stand on principle and value, the answer is easy. But when you're trying to read someone else's mind, then it is tough.
Then you're all over the place.
Well, for example, if I were running, I would offend a person who doesn't want the economy to grow,
Right.
who doesn't want us to protect ourselves physically, and doesn't want to protect us culturally. And my response is, great. Don't vote for me. I don't want your vote.
So, Ken, what district are you running, Ken? Are you running New York or Florida?
Yeah.
You know, Ken just gave me an idea. What's needed? What this country needs, you know, is a good 5-cent cigar.
Right.
What this country needs is, I don't know, maybe a radio show that educates people culturally, national security, economically,
Right.
in sort of an entertaining fashion.
You're right.
To get the point across, to start rethinking and
On a
start
big-
their on a larger scale.
on a
That's what we need.
Are you talking about
Let's look
that?
into that. Let's look into that. Hey,
Okay.
Ken, we've got a few minutes left, and it's been a pleasure, obviously, having you here talking about national security. You're going to be doing your presentation quite a bit in the coming year, 2014. If you'd like to get in touch with Ken, get in touch with me, Tom at The United West, Tom at theunitedwest.org, and we will get you in touch with Ken. You're going to... what are you doing? Volunteering? What are
Yes,
you doing?
I've
I'll let you say it.
Yes, I've volunteered this whole year. I've given about 20 speeches around the country, and I'm going to do it again next year. And as long as people want to hear me, I'll do it on a volunteer basis, which actually costs me a bunch of money because I have to fly somewhere, I have to sleep somewhere, and take time out of my work schedule. But I feel honored and privileged to do it because people are hungry for a message that is meaningful and makes sense to them. And I think I have a message, and I'm actually trying to get the Republican Party and politicians one by one to understand what a simple message the truth can be and convey that forcefully to the American public. Because when I see congressmen, I say, look, you should get 75% of the vote. If I were running in your district, I'd have 75%, because the only people who wouldn't vote for me are the people who don't want a strong economy, a strong military, or culture. And so I'm doing my best to help the political system think more clearly, because the political system is not great at thinking, and my function in life is to think.
All right, folks, if you'd like Ken to speak to your venue, that's a possibility. Contact me, Tom, at theunitedwest.org. I'll get you in touch with Ken, then you guys can work it out, but there's no cost to you. And like I said, we've seen this several times. It's a very in-depth presentation. It's going to be compiled in a zip-zang PowerPoint, and just fabulous stuff. But with the remaining moments, Ken,
Obamacare. We got
we got to touch on
we gotta hit that
Obamacare.
one.
We got a few minutes left.
You'll find out what's in it.
I'm starting to worry. I am starting to worry. and I'm double-minded. But it looks like the momentum is starting to shift to the Democrat side. And no matter if nobody signs up, they're saying, oh, it's a phenomenal success. And other things are going on. And people are starting to say, yeah, I guess it's going to be here. And that adaptation to a cultural horror is occurring. And I don't think it's going to change. What do you see happening in the next 30, 60, 90 days with Obamacare? And before you even answer that, what is the Achilles or the fatal flaw inherent in this whole system?
Obamacare is fatally flawed. When they passed the law, or just before they did, I actually downloaded the roughly 2,500 pages, and I read 800 pages of it, and I said, this can't possibly work. And I didn't have to read the other two-thirds of it. Every other paragraph is the Secretary of Health and Human Services. The Secretary shall, the Secretary will, the Secretary must. Well, you can't have even the three smartest people sitting in Washington making 1,000 decisions for 315 million people. So the fatal flaw was socialism, that three smart people can sit in a room in Washington and decide how different 315 million people should act. The other fatal flaw...
That's a structural organizational issue. Okay, that's serious. Okay, go ahead.
Another structural flaw is it's based on a defined benefit as opposed to defined contribution. If I had to separate the difference in two words between Democrats and Republicans, it should be defined benefit versus defined contribution. The reason I say that is that once you offer defined benefit, it's guaranteed bankruptcy. So, for example, if you said to me, you're starving and hungry, and I say, oh, that's terrible, you're starving and hungry, go have lunch and send me the bill. That's a defined benefit. The benefit is lunch, and you're going to send me the bill. You will start eating for $5 a day. Within a month, you'll be eating for $500 a day, because you'd be silly not to.
Right, okay.
Okay, a defined contribution is the way we treat our children in terms of their allowance. We say, son or daughter, you're now 8 years old, here's $5 a week. It's a defined contribution. You can do whatever you want with it. A defined benefit would be, I'm going to take you to the candy store, buy all the candy that you want, and I'm going to pay for it. So the second Achilles heel was a defined benefit. It should have been a defined contribution. The government should have said, our collective tax benefits for health insurance per family is about $3,000. Everybody gets $3,000 contribution to health insurance. So if you have no money, the government's going to hand you $3,000. It's called a refundable tax credit. But if you make whatever higher, but you still get your $3,000. Everybody gets $3,000 contribution. That's a defined contribution. They should have gone that way. They could have had no one insured in a week without bankrupting the country.
But is that insurance if there's no defined benefit?
The marketplace will tell you what it was. It's like Mike giving you $5 for lunch and you saying, oh, what's lunch? I go, I don't know what lunch is. $5, go to McDonald's or Wendy's and you'll find out what lunch is.
All right, you're making me hungry, Ken. Let's go to lunch after the show and continue this. But will you come back, because we're just getting into Obamacare and the show's coming to an end, and I think the next 30 days are going to be quite interesting with what's going to happen in Washington and elsewhere. So you're going to come back?
I'd be happy to come back. We can just focus on health care if you want.
Take 10, 15 seconds, literally, and tell the folks what you'd like them to know based upon your time here today. That camera right there.
What I think everyone should know is they should do what I do. Every time a politician speaks, ask yourself 3 questions. Is this person capable of growing the economy, protecting the people physically, and protecting the people culturally? Pretend you're a professor, give them a grade on each, and don't vote for them if they don't believe.
Amen. And on that happy note, a very wise note, we're going to say goodbye, and we will see you on Monday, December 30th. Take care.
Shalom.